to our final session, which is our final session for Bounce ever. So came up in a couple. So in the compliance session, also earlier on when we were talking with Cam, we were talking about contingent workforce and the importance of contingent talent. So really, really lucky to be joined today by two experts within the contingent workforce space, which is Vicky Carolyn, and we have Miriam Harness joining us as well. And also to present a bit of a case study from Lycopodium, where we're joined by Tristan Kolay. So welcome. So great to see you all.
Thanks, Eden. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Eden.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. So great to see you all again. And I'll jump off the stage and I'll hand over to you, Vicky.
Thanks, Eden. So hi, everyone. I'm Vicky Carolyn and I'm Head of Talent Solutions at CXC. I've worked in the workforce management industry since 2002 and have really been involved in designing and implementing workforce and talent management programs specifically around the contingent space for large corporate customers throughout Australia. I'm here today with my partner in crime, Miriam. Miriam and I have worked together for almost 3 years, but it feels like a really, really long time. Miriam's our MSP guru at CXC. She works across a portfolio of our on-site programs, ensuring that we are delivering to unique business requirements around the contingent sourcing space. Developing out supply chain panels and also implementing direct sourcing strategies, really giving that overall governance over the entire sort of contingent workforce process. And today we're really looking forward to discussing the topic of attracting contingent talent. We have with us one of our key clients to give a perspective on how he attracts contingent talent at Lycopodium. So Tristan is the Global Talent Acquisition Lead at Lyco. He's recruiting predominantly in the resources and energy sector, but started his recruitment journey in the global executive search space, progressing into internal, international and local recruitment through major gold, oil and gas producers. He more recently has resourced the EPCM space for technical, commercial and leadership roles. So welcome, Miriam and Tristan. So Tristan, I'm going to pass over to you first and just want to get a bit of an understanding, if you could sort of set the scene and give us an overview of Lycopodium's recruitment model.
Yeah, sure thing. So Lycopodium, we're an international engineering firm. And basically we source for hard to fill roles, of course, in Australia, in Manila, in the Philippines, Canada, South Africa. Got a global team. Our resourcing model is transferable and applied globally. So effectively we have direct sourcing, so headhunting through tools like LinkedIn, through more recently HireEasy. And then we also recruit digitally through job boards such as, of course, Seek, LinkedIn, Indeed, but also using social media campaigns to engage our passive and active audience to build our followers. So we're on a base of, I think, just over 38,000, growing that. So I heard about the earlier segment about brand ambassadors. That's something we also find quite a fair bit of value in as well. And of course, we get a large volume of referrals. So I think about 28% of our talent come from word of mouth. So we have an internal referral program. And additionally, we also utilize agencies, if and as required, to source, particularly for some of our harder to fill roles. So we have an established vendor panel. We have a great relationship with them where they provide not only talent from close relationships, but also market intelligence that we can feed back to the business. So yeah, that's basically our sourcing model in a brief nutshell.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for that, Tristan. And Miriam, could you just give us an overview of some of CXC's on-site programs that you're overseeing delivering to at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think We have a number of different solutions that we work with, from your more kind of traditional MSP, where we're maybe just managing supply chain for them and passing roles through, to some of our more embedded solutions where we're going in with our client. We feel exactly the same, working on site with our clients to directly source their contingent workers for them through a number of different channels, and go so forth. I mean, we also utilize our own workforce exchange program within that as well, to ensure that we can redeploy some of our contractors that have currently worked with us or with other clients as well. So we have a number of different things, but we make sure that we really try and really tailor ourselves to what the client's wants and needs are, as everybody is different as to what their contingent workforce looks like and what they want from the program.
Thanks for that, Miriam. And we've heard today a couple of times that there is a big focus on contingent talent. It's a theme and it's sort of come up quite a bit. So Tristan, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've come up against in attracting contingent talent in the current market?
Yes, certainly. So the bigger challenge that we have, and I think what our challenge is not foreign, not unknown, is really just the competition to both identify, source, engage, and retain quality talent. And certainly relevant to contingent talent, particularly where we operate in a project space, very cyclical. Contingent talent allows us to scale up and down quickly, but we're in a very competitive market space. So that is our predominant challenge, how you remain competitive. I guess if you think about it from our space, our sector is resources, is mining and metals. As of last year, there's about a 53% increase in the volume of projects in Australia alone. And a large chunk of them is in oil and gas, other commodities as well. Western Australia and then Queensland take the largest chunk in terms of the volume of this project. So we're competing not only in our core space in terms of mining and metals, but also we have other competitors in oil and gas and other sectors, utilities, are competing for essentially the same talent. So that's basically our biggest challenge, the sourcing and retention. Secondary upon that is, I guess to a different extent, but equally as important, is engaging with our internal business stakeholders to ensure that they can be responsive, to make decisions quickly and present the ideal remuneration packages and other details in order to attract the talent. But yeah, so the competitive landscape that we're in is certainly the biggest hurdle that we have.
Yeah, speed to market's always sort of been one of the biggest challenges, I think, around contingent, because people sort of move around so quickly. Miriam, is there anything you have in addition to that, any additional challenges that you see as a part of your current programs?
I think just echoing what Tristan said, we're in a very, everybody, not just contingent, in a very candidate short market for a lot of roles as well. And I think that some of the challenges are really that time to hire. Contingent, we would typically want to see things moving a lot quicker, but not losing out on the process and necessarily the quality that we're seeing with the candidates coming through, and making sure we're spending the time with the candidates so that they're not just coming in to fix something and then go again. They're coming in and actually contributing and hopefully progressing through and onto other projects with the clients.
Yeah, and I guess also feeling a part of the business as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Tristan, what are sort of the techniques and tools that you've used to assist you in attracting talent in a competitive environment?
Yeah, it's a good question. And keeping in mind, so we source in the commercial space as well as the engineering space, both say project controls, contracts, procurement, as well as senior mechanical engineers, principal process engineers, and the like.
Very diverse.
Yeah. So what we do find is in the contingent talent field in particular, so we're always at risk of having counter offers made by our direct and indirect competitors, and that's essentially a way of life, and that's certainly quite thematic, particularly at the moment. I think earlier this year there was a little bit lighter, but the presentation of our employment value proposition. So we're talking about things outside of remuneration, things such as how can you further enrich your career journey. That becomes quite remarkable. So in terms of sourcing and retaining talent, so the career pathways that we talk about, Lycopodium, like we're about 1,300 global, but we're a mid-cap. We're fairly agile. And we have the benefit of also being able to treat our internal talent, both perm staff as well as contingent staff, both essentially identical. So I've been in previous operators in oil and gas where essentially if you're a contractor, you have a tag and that makes you quite picket fence in terms of what information you get access to, but also from a cultural level. Our Lyco staff, both perm and contractor, have access to the same benefits, the same career progression, the same training and development, but also the same opportunity to be exposed to our various projects. So our EVP, firstly and foremostly, is over 30 years, wide volume of diverse, difficult projects in wet plant, in hydrometallurgy, in metals, in gold, copper. We're relatively quite strong in terms of both our volume and workload. And that opportunity is presented globally. So the value proposition we try and present our contractors, particularly the designers and mechanical engineers who make up the bulk of our Perth workforce, for example, which is around 41% contractors. We've had them around for about, some of them are around as old as 10, 15 plus years. And that's because they love our culture, which is also quite collegial, and the exposure to different projects. So as cliche as it may sound, we try to present an actual long-term dream. And our GM of engineering, Claude, will always say that, look, Perth is essentially the Silicon Valley of resources and in metals. So that makes our brand slightly more competitive, arguably, against our other competitors. So when we come to situations where the hourly rates we're presenting are similar, if not the same, it comes down to our EVP, presenting an opportunity that helps progress one's career further in both diversity of work and also going up the career ladder, making clear very distinct career progressions. For example, you can start as a senior mechanical engineer, go to a lead mechanical engineer, become a principal, look after a project. Those are the things that our TAs, myself, try to paint as vividly as possible. But taking a step back from all of that, it also comes down to the TAs just applying our basic sales skills per se, and really building a relationship with the candidates, understanding what their motivators are, their career aspirations. Like some of them often will simply say, I'm after $1, and that's perfectly fine. But if there are other levers we can push and pull, maintain that relationship, following up as we agreed, making that experience, that candidate experience as well as possible, that certainly comes in handy. And that allows us to really have a relationship where we can be considered first and foremost. And then when we talk about what they're seeking, we're able to sell that with a greater degree of acceptance to secure talent and also to retain them.
Yeah, I love that you've got being passionate. I'm very passionate about the contingent workforce, being worked in the industry for about 23 years. I love that there's a pathway for contingent workers. I think that that's something that, as you were saying, you've worked for other organisations, and if you're a contingent worker, you've got a tag and you sit in a separate area of the room and you're not given the same level of access. So the fact that there is a pathway there, I think, is a great selling point, and certainly something that I think a lot of other organisations could adopt as an attraction tool. But also having that strategy in place with the TA team and understanding the motivators is hugely important as well. Miriam, what are the tools that you're utilising as a part of some of the programs you're overseeing at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Tristan, you mentioned, EVP, and I think that's a massive one, that it's important that we're with some of our solutions that we're really working in conjunction with our client and promoting their EVP as well. I think, the most successful solutions that we've seen is where we are embedded as part of the talent acquisition team. We look, we feel, we sound the same. We're branded very similarly, if not exactly the same, and we follow the same processes so that they feel like they're getting the complete client experience as well. Again, coming down to that, they're not being treated in any different sense of the word, and that obviously that being part of a client and being part of the similar team, you can discuss other opportunities be it in the contingent space or be it in the permanent space, and where things can progress to as well. So I think that's something that we've really seen has worked very well with a lot of our solutions in attracting the talent, is that the use of branding and the promotion of the client EVP, as well as just making sure that we're offering a lucrative source for them to continue working. As Tristan said, some are just after the making the money, and others are looking for something more long-term, more substantial in another career. So being able to have that human element and be able to discuss all that as a look and feel is not just being so removed that, we're putting you in to do something.
Yes, yeah. And if I may quickly, just on top of that human experience, I think what I do find for our guys, for the CXC contractors we have, one thing that is done quite well is that they are looked after quite well by their account managers. So we'll, for example, have Dave Donahoe. He'll actually come over and visit our Perth office on a fairly regular basis, catch up with the team, have tea and coffee with them, put on some more notes, have conversations. So he's an accessible individual that can who has demonstrated ability to quickly respond to any queries or concerns, because CXC effectively becomes the employer of these contractors, but they're effectively part of our Lyco family per se. So it's always helpful to have, instead of going to a call center, an actual individual pick up the phone and be ready for any kind of queries or questions to keep them happy and retained in the team.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great partnership. I think it works really, really well. Like you were saying, we've got there's that attraction piece where working your TA team are attracting the workers, and then we can look at the retention strategies and having that sort of that partnership where it runs really seamlessly works well. So I was going to ask about EVP and brand, but you've both added it into your answers already. So we'll move on to following on from what I was saying about retaining talent. What assists with retaining good talent in your business, do you think? Anyone can answer.
I was like, who's going to go? I think first and foremost, that pay rate benchmarking, making sure that contractors and contingent workforce are coming in and they're being paid fairly and in line with what they need to be paid. I think CXC, we work on benchmarking and making sure within all our solutions that we are aware of what's happening in the market. We are able to provide that information back into hiring managers, have those conversations as well, when sometimes comes up for extension or something, and people want contractors might want a pay rise or something, and having those open and fair discussions with the managers, like, actually, yes, this is what we're seeing in the market, potentially not that high, and being able to provide that advice to them to ensure that we retain the talent, we retain the IP within the client. And one of the things that CXC does do, and just to make a little plug here, that we've got coming out is our salary benchmarking report that is being released in July this year, which keeps and gives a very good overview of what is moving and happening in the markets and across the different industries. I think in terms of other retention tools, it is, where possible, being open to learning and development. Tristan, obviously you were saying, about those pathways for contingent workers as well. And I think some of the clients that I've worked with and have been a part of, or our solutions are a part of, is that I see that they do open, those learning and development opportunities to their contingent workforce as well, rather than treating them as a separate entity. And that means that they feel part, and they feel they're getting more skilled, and they're learning and continuing to develop in their chosen career. And if that means that they then move on and take that somewhere else, then I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's good if they can bring that back and keep progressing through with the client as well.
Yeah. And on that salary benchmarking, sorry, Tristan, I was going to say, on the salary benchmarking, I think the unique thing with our report, which again is probably a little bit of a plug, but it does cover across various different industries. So we obviously work with several corporate clients throughout Australia in varying industry sectors. So you're really able to get the industry sectors, then drill down to those sort of job families and the skill sets as well. And so it's quite broad. Sorry, Tristan, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I think I was going to underpin what I was going to share by what you guys and what you mentioned earlier in terms of the salary benchmarking. And it's quite timely. We were actually talking about our HR fortnightly meeting this morning that, our remuneration adjustments are coming up in the month of June. But yeah, that data certainly becomes quite handy for us as an end client to ensure that the data we get from you as well as from our agencies to ensure that we have the correct pay scales for attracting our people, and also it helps our HR do their role in partnership with the business to make sure that come end of financial year, our incremental changes are correct and fit for purpose for the market in order to retain the people that we have. So yeah, that certainly helps from that granular remuneration level. But even though we're a mid-cap, we don't have the benefit of saying any short-term incentives that we can put to our contractors or our perm staff. We do have a limited amount of tools that we try and wield effectively to keep them engaged. So yeah, so our career progression is managed through a tool that we have called Culture Amp. So basically, it's a very basic tool that allows our line managers and their managers to provide honest and adequate feedback to their people on a two-way street, so both parties understand where they're at, where they're going. So that certainly helps at a coaching level, albeit digital, but certainly underpinned hopefully by regular conversations. And on a side note, it comes back to the importance of TA being able to ensure we get the correct fit, particularly with our leaders, to ensure they have the soft skills to be able to have the coaching conversations, to be able to lead a clear career pathway. And again, with Lyco, it's both perm and contractor able to have the same career development opportunities. And then we also have a digital platform called Learn-Upon, and that is predominantly of softer skills that can be requested through our learning development team to upskill any staff who may be lacking in areas such as communication skills quite often, or stakeholder management skills. But our leadership also help provide exposure to more hard skills for particular software if and as required. But again, I guess like with any other organizations, from a retention perspective, making sure our people feel comfortable. It's certainly very important if you don't have a social community to at least have some social opportunities for the team to really get together inside and outside their teams to feel like part of the organization. Lastly, we do have a platform called the Pod Life. So it's almost like a digital corporate Facebook in a way that allows our staff to be recognized with discounts and access to coupons and services and gym products that we have discounted. And it doesn't seem significant, but it actually allows to have our members given digital credits for a team when they complete a particular milestone. So even our group company MD Peter DeLay has been able to comment when particular milestones or anniversaries are met, or even just birthdays. So the team, all digitally on the same platform, can feel a sense of personal recognition when they complete particular projects across the board or things like that. So yeah, so basically think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yes, satisfying the secure element in terms of monetary, but also a bit more on the security and self-actualization in terms of that personal recognition, both face-to-face conversations as well as digitally through those platforms as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's so progressive to have all of those initiatives available to contingent workers. I think that I was actually having a chat with Eden not long ago, and we're talking about how contingent workers are the forgotten workforce. And so I just really love that because it's just obviously the numbers are going up and up and up in terms of contingent workers, flexible working arrangements, international engagements, all those sorts of things are pushing more towards, your non-permanent workforce. So the fact that you've got those initiatives already in place, I think is such a great attraction, but it's also going to help retain that really good talent, like you were saying, in such a competitive environment as well. So I just wanted to ask next, how do you integrate? How do you ensure an integration of your contingent workforce into the company culture? Now, I know you've got a lot of those initiatives in place. Is there sort of the same onboarding kind of processes in place as there is with permanent workers? And how do you sort of ensure that there is that continuation of that seamless integration from TA right through into the business?
Yeah, it's essentially quite simply put, they are treated entirely identically to our perm staff. So there is no sense of demarcation between a perm staff member and a contingent staff member. they're all what we call Lycopods. So it's as simple as during induction, during the welcoming, they're all inducted the same facilities, the same visibility and access to all our digital platforms. And when we have, even for example, like our monthly gatherings for celebrating anniversaries, so those anniversaries are both for perm staff as well as our contractors. It doesn't matter, what base of employment is. You've been here 15 years, I've been here 15 years, and that has been the case with some of our contractors as well, which we're pretty proud to share in that sense. So, yeah, basically, I treat them identically. They're all invited to say our anniversary events, like our Christmas party. We had our 30-year anniversary as a firm last year at the Camfield, and yeah, we both had contract staff, contingent staff, and our perm staff mingling socially together. You come into our office, and there's really no actual physical way to work out who is a contractor and who's not. Again, I know other organisations there will be some certain differences or even physical boundaries in place, but nothing like that here. So yeah, when you come into our office,
Right.
Whether it be in Perth, Brisbane, Melbourne, or wherever, our people are all what's the word, indistinguishable in terms of how they're employed, and seem to gel fairly well as a result. Also, they also have the same access to our cultural survey. So in terms of that, they've got the same ability to provide feedback back to us in terms of how we could be better as an organisation.
That's so good. And Miriam, how in the programs you've seen, how do you ensure a seamless integration into the workforce on the various programs you're running at the moment?
Yeah, I think as Tristan said, that kind of there's no demarcation between who's who, within the office. And I think, from an onboarding perspective, obviously sometimes they, contingent payroll workers are paid by different people, so there is slightly different onboarding that happens, but still putting them through that client onboarding as well. I think for us being part of the programs, what we do is following line. So the same kind of things are going out to perm when they start, as well as to contingent workers. Reminding our hiring managers, don't forget to give your contingent worker a call a week before coming in. Make sure everything is set up and ready to go. It's not just, come in and collect your laptop. It's come in, welcome, inductions, meet with the team, have the same kind of setup as you would for a perm staff member as well. Because I think that it's really important that you can't tell when you walk around an office. And sometimes, I kind of even forget who are our contingent workers when I'm on site with clients, because you can't tell the difference. And I think that's really important. And it is from that initial step into it. And again, going through, the same kind of interview processes and going through the same systems and the same references and things like that. Everything is still looks and feels the same. The only difference is potentially who they're payrolled by.
Yeah, I think that candidate experience piece is really important, and it's also good because it sort of helps the branding of the business brand as well, protect that brand. So Tristan, how do you measure the success of your contingent workforce program, if that's something that you can kind of share?
Yeah, so it's a fair question, and it comes down to the fact that whether they're contingent or perm staff, we actually currently, to my knowledge anyway, do not distinguish between both type when it comes to performance management. So again, Culture Amp's the tool that we use for all staff to be provided feedback. And in addition to that, there are some performance measures that are then considered in Culture Amp, and also some qualitative feedback by the business that also affects what their pay will look like in future. So nothing distinctive towards any particular type of staff, but yeah, we all globally go through the same performance management, but also same performance coaching tools. So that's one thing in terms of measuring performance. It also gives data back to the line managers in order to work out what they need to do with their subordinates below to provide that appropriate support. And also, again, a bit of a two-way street. We also have our contingent and perm workers access to our annual cultural survey. So we, in turn, can get feedback from them in terms of the areas that we need to improve upon in order to help enable their performance. So what I can say without going into too much detail, like one particular metric was came down to a bit of recognition as well. And hence why one of the reasons why we have a number of different recognition platforms like the Pod Life as an example.
Yeah, that's great. I think those feedback channels are so important because it helps us sort of adjust and to, implement some new strategies, like you were saying, to have that sort of ongoing satisfaction from everyone. Miriam, it might be a bit hard because you work on various programs, but any sort of key measures that are in place for managing the contingent program, the success of the contingent program?
I mean, I think for us, it's that, sometimes the retention or the redeployment of our contingent workforce within the client or within different clients. I think that for us measures success. That we found the right candidates, they want to keep them. As much as sometimes we dislike it, that not dislike, that's the wrong word, but conversion into fixed term or permanent, seeing them go on and become that. And I guess just to reiterate, not being able to tell who's contingent, who's not, and people being proud to say that they work for the client, not, oh, I'm a contractor who does some work for, I think for us that's really a measure of success as well.
Amazing. I think we're right on cue, Eden. You're on mute.
I can't believe I've done that twice today. Thank you so much. That was such an awesome conversation. And Vicky, obviously you and I have spoken about this before, and I couldn't agree more. And Tristan and Miriam, just such an amazing example of how we can fully embed our workforce and make sure that our contingent workers aren't the forgotten workforce that we talked about, Vicky. So and I couldn't think of a better session to end our Bounce events, and I couldn't think of three kinder people to end the events with. So thank you so much. Thank you, Team CXC, and thank you so much, Tristan. So great to see you.
Thanks, Eden.